Hi, I want to talk to you about addiction. I have to wear this contraption on my head right now because the microphone's not working. I'd have to shout, and I'm not the only one in the house, so for now, it doesn't matter. Nobody wants to look at me anyway. It's more important what I have to say. Um, I have a couple other videos. This is the first video that I've um, actually prepared for in terms of writing things down, and we'll see if it's any more effective. Sometimes when you're going off the top of your head, I think that you're more effective, but I'll try to still go off the top of my head, but enough for that introduction. I can talk to you about addiction because I've been there, and I'm free from it now, and one of the things that I did try at one time was AA, and I'm going to talk to you about my experience with AA and without AA. I, got through college, got through law school, didn't have any addictions. But, well, maybe I did have an addiction, I think, in maybe a sex addiction to my girlfriend in law school. I think I was too preoccupied with her, which really brought me down in terms of grades and other things I needed to accomplish. But regardless, I'm talking about chemical addictions, and I know that a lot of people, at least with me, I wasn't necessarily just seeking pleasure. I was trying to deal with pain, things like loss, failure, disillusionment as a result of loss and failure. And but once you get started, even when things start to get better, if they do start to get better, you're usually going to keep it up. You can take drugs, and when I'm talking about drugs, I'm talking about alcohol. Alcohol also. I don't want to keep distinguishing between the two. It's as if there's a difference, and there's not. Alcohol is as much a drug and probably more destructive and more dangerous than some of the other ones that are not legal. And I'm not saying that you should go to those other drugs as opposed to alcohol. I'm not making a argument here that other drugs are more safe or less dangerous. You shouldn't do any of them. But if you've seen my video, my testimony, you'll see I spoke about being freed from, or at least having it revealed to me that drunkenness was a sin. All drugs are sin. The devil tempts us with those things so that we will not be productive, so that we'll go to hell. And I also spoke about how that began a process of getting clean, and not a process of perfection, but a process of struggle. And the struggle was a long one, and I hate to say it, but it's been 7 years. And in between those 7 years, there were times of total sobriety, but alcohol, above all others, was always a lingering problem because, number one, it's legal. Number two, it's socially acceptable. Number three, a lot of the people that I've known throughout my life, friends and family, drink alcohol, get drunk, while still maintaining, a normal life in terms of keeping a steady job and having a house and a family and paying their bills and things like that. So there wasn't as much of a stigma with alcohol, and since I never really became friends or had fellowship with true practicing Christians, the social isolation sort of led me back to old friends and family and the way to socially, to sort of mix with them socially was with alcohol as that social elixir. But I want to talk about AA and the evils of AA, the pitfalls of AA. You know, I did, after July 1st, 2007, which is when I was reborn and had this revelation by God that, you know, alcohol was a sin, drugs were sinful, and they were evil. I did have a period where, you know, while struggling, I was determined not to drink. And I remember one time I met my uncle and a friend for lunch near my work, and right near my office. We met at a restaurant, and my uncle, he's one of these guys. He owns a bar. He should, because he spends so much time in them, and he's an alcoholic. But I didn't know that. I thought it was just manly or macho the way he drank. Right after my 21st birthday, I went on a vacation overseas with my parents. While it was the summer between my sophomore and junior year in college, and I wish I hadn't done that. My uncle was there also, and what a way to be introduced to the world of legal drinking now that I was 21, because he drank like nobody I'd ever seen. We went on a pub crawl one time. I just wanted to go to lunch. I asked him, I said, I'm going to lunch, if you want to go, you know, follow me. If not, I'm just going. I have to eat. And he followed me, but the first thing he wanted to do was go into a bar. We were in Ireland, you know, there's a big pub culture there. We were in a touristy town, Killarney. So the first thing we did was go into a bar, get a pint of Guinness. And he said, well, what if we try to have a pint in every bar in town? Well, we asked the bartender how many bars there were in town, and we're talking 2 blocks. And he said 52. And my uncle suggested having half pints. That would still be 26 pints. No way. I never even had lunch until after we were 7 pints. I remember we just went from one bar to another, to another, to another. But he drank, after I had drank 12 pints, I couldn't drink anymore. He kept drinking until 18 pints. And then he said, you want to do some brown guys? He called them. There were shots of Irish whiskey. There was no way. I was already under the table practically, figuratively. I had my head down. I couldn't drink anymore. And after 18 pints, he started drinking. He did about 6 shots of Irish whiskey. And then like 2 hours later, I went back to the hotel. He was still in the lobby, having fun. No problem. He was. And I had quit drinking for the rest of the night. So, you know, he became a legend, not realizing that's just an unbelievable tolerance, you know, as a result of being an alcoholic. So I thought he was just, you know, a tough guy. Now I know he was just an alcoholic. And so that was my introduction. And that's, you know, obviously, that's not good. You know, it's very important. You have to be careful who you associate with, and unfortunately, you know, your family members can be bad associates. So, you know, I associated with the wrong people by virtue of the fact that they were my family members. So, that's one, you know, well, strike I had against me. But the first time I had a problem with alcohol, and I overcame it initially, had nothing to do with AA, and I should have never turned to AA. But initially, this was in 2005, my doctor told me, you know, that he was a Christian, and he used to be a missionary before he became a physician. And you know, he asked me, you know, would I say the sinner's prayer, and I did. I was willing, and I said the sinner's prayer with him. And then, you see, because I was actually very successful. I would go to work, and I was doing well. But every time I would get home at night, by like 7 o'clock, I would have that nervous feeling in your stomach that you get from alcohol. You need the anxiety starts to crop up in you, and you need that nightly fix. So he had given me some Librium, which helped me a little bit, but it really, I would just take one pill at night when I got home, and then I would go and I would read this tract that he gave me, a little tract, Are You Living the Spiritual Life? And the thing that it said was, it was like 1, 2, and 3, and like, it said, you know, step 2 was Ephesians 5:18, do not be drunk with wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit. Be filled with the Spirit. So once I heard that, that really helped me. And I went 10 weeks without alcohol. And then we were in Cancun, and I wasn't drinking alcohol. And then I called home because I called a family member who I'd left my dogs with to see how they were doing. And I could tell they were drunk, and they'd basically attacked me verbally over the phone, and I got so upset, and I succumbed, and I ordered the 2-for-1. I got Long Island iced teas, and I don't think it's a coincidence that that night, out of nowhere, according to the news reports, a blip on the screen appeared, and it was Hurricane Wilma, and it was there within 2 days, and we waited for it. We were there, and we lived through Hurricane Wilma, the strongest, most devastating hurricane ever recorded up to that point. And I saw Cancun before, and I saw Cancun after. It was totally destroyed while I was there. And was God sending me a message? Who am I? I think He was. And my life will bear that out. Either I'm right or I'm wrong. So I didn't need AA at that time. And then after July 1st, 2007, I went to lunch with that same uncle who I had been in Ireland with back in '92. And he was drinking vodka, lemonade, and my friend wasn't drinking because he was working. He said it was his policy not to drink. And he's a successful businessman. He's got businesses, and he also, he's a banker. He makes good money just at his job, but then he owns businesses. He didn't have enough vodka, so in the lemonade, so he told the waiter to get him more. And then my friend was commenting how the night before, he had just like he held up his fingers like that much Irish whiskey in a glass with ice, and how it was just enough, nice nightcap. And these things go into your mind, and it's the power of suggestion, and that's why the people you associate with are drinkers, and you're not. Good luck. And I mentioned in my other video, sex, drugs, and demons, how the television is constantly, it's all drugs or alcohol. Even cooking shows always have to add cocktails, and these things, these are subtle suggestions, but they will keep you returning to alcohol, even if it's turned your world upside down, because of the power of suggestion. It makes it seem glamorous, it makes it seem harmless, it makes it seem innocent, makes it seem fun, because you're looking at people on commercials, on television shows, and it's not causing destruction or misery, even though the reality is that's what it's done to you. But you're sucked in, and you succumb again, and your world gets turned upside down again. So that's what happened to me at this lunch. Oh, and then that uncle, his son, my cousin, called me that night, and do you want to meet me at the bar, meet him and his friends? And I did, and so I was only drinking Amstel Light. Well, by the end of the night, he started talking about when he was at a wedding doing cocaine, and then he brought this girl who happened to be visiting from Ireland, Dublin. I don't want to be putting down the Irish, but maybe it's time to look in the mirror, or look at society in the mirror. He brought her out and he's married, although they're having problems, and goes out into the parking lot and has sex with her, and she comes in the bar at the end of the night. You can tell she wants everybody to know she just had sex with him, how great it was. And he's drunk at that point. He left. He didn't even come back in the bar afterward. I mean, it's just total debauchery. And these are, I mean, the other people who were there as friends aren't like that, and I wouldn't go and do that. Wouldn't cheat on my wife or commit fornication with somebody while I'm married, but although the drugs and the drinking is enticing, so that sort of how do you get from on July 1st, 2007, when God reveals to you that drunkenness is a sin, alcohol and all these drugs are sin, and they're going to send you to hell, and it's the devil tempting you. How do you go back to it? Well, that's one way, the people you associate with. But so that's how I got, 2005, Jesus was able to free me from alcohol, and then a family member who attacked me while they were drunk. Where's my faith? Where's the obedience? I've learned the hard way. It's been 7 years of struggle, and here I am now. I think I've got enough experience now, the school of hard knocks, to be able to help other people. So here you go. Here's the help. So stay tuned. Don't change the channel. So that was the first way this happened to me after July 1st. And then I got really, by 2008, I was just a mess. So I thought I'll give that AA a try. And, you think you're surrendering by going to AA and going to these meetings, but it's not good. The reason that the AA is not good is because any addiction is demonic. It's because you have demons who are, they can cause those cravings and those thoughts, where you can't stop thinking about it, that obsession with the drug, and it can overcome you and overwhelm you, where you have to go out and get that drug, whether it's alcohol or whatever drug it might be, legal or illegal. It's easy to get the legal ones. It's harder sometimes to get the illegal ones, unless you really know where to go. And most people who are addicts know where to go. So I went to AA, and I would just constantly, you're getting attacked by the people all around you. You go into these meetings, and you have a demon, they have demons, and usually you don't know you have demons, they don't know they have demons, real, literal demons, who are part of the satanic kingdom. And the only thing that defeats demons is Jesus. And it's not AA. And so those people in those meetings can't help you. They can't help themselves. So how can they help you? And you go there and you do get the bullshit, like the ones who are the old timers, or the winners, or whatever they call themselves. A lot of them are liars, or they have relapses, or they've switched from one drug, alcohol, to another. Most of them are chain smokers. You'll see people there at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night with a big, large Starbucks, coffee. So, they're addicted to coffee, caffeine. They're addicted to alcohol. I had a friend in high school once who, him and his friends, their parents did an intervention, and they had to go to AA like in junior year in high school, and he never drank after that, but he became a degenerate gambler. I mean, total degenerate gambler. So his new addiction was gambling. So that's how they overcome alcohol. They just switch addictions. So their demons are still there. It's just, they're just destroying them another way. And one of the biblical sources for for what I just said is Ephesians 6:12, when Paul says, and if you're familiar with being a Christian, then you're familiar with this passage. But if you're not, and most likely you're not, if you're battling with addictions, because I wasn't a Christian when I became, entangled in bondage to addiction. Paul says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And that's Ephesians 6:12. And that goes to show that we're battling demons, and Jesus is the only thing that can help. Alcoholics Anonymous and the people in those meetings can't help you, because they can't help themselves. They've got demons and you have demons. And one of the things I realized there was, because I didn't go to AA until I actually became a Christian. I had been reading the Bible, and I'd read it probably at least twice by the time I had gone to these meetings, and I was familiar with the New Testament. I'd read it twice. When I say the Bible, I mean the New Testament. I couldn't read the whole Bible twice. The Old Testament is like 4 or 5 times as long as the New Testament. So, I was familiar with those, with the principles or the concepts, described in the New Testament by Jesus and Paul and Peter and John, and so I had an idea, and I was figuring it out as I was there. I knew that I was being attacked by other people, these other attendees at these meetings. I don't want to call them AA members, because there really are no members. They just attend meetings. And I've read that on average, most of those people at those meetings have on average 2 months of sobriety only, and that within 5 years, like 95% of people who start AA don't even go back. So you're dealing with mostly, people who haven't been going longer than 5 years, and most of those people on average in that room have two months of sobriety. They don't have any track record. So what's the point of going? There is no point, and that's the point I'm making, and I'm going to make. But I want to give you an example of what happened with me. I would go to different meetings, because they're on different days, different times, different places. So you can get the books, and you go to a different meeting in your area. There are probably 10 meetings in your immediate vicinity within 10, 15-minute drive. And I went to one meeting, and the people seemed all right. And they said, you got to get a sponsor. And then there was this old guy sitting to my left, and he said, well, I'll be your sponsor. And he said, I could be your sponsor for now, temporary sponsor. And so we exchanged numbers, and he said, but don't only call me if you need me. So I took his instruction, and I didn't need him, so I didn't call him. And not a long time had gone by, and I was with my wife, and we were at a resort, a nice resort at a lake, not far, about an hour away from the house. And we had a beautiful room, and she had gone to the spa while I had gone to the gym and lifted weights and maybe done some cardio. I don't remember. And I was back in the room that night at about 9 o'clock, and I was in bed. I wasn't drinking alcohol. I was fine. I was sober. Everything. I felt fine, happy, at peace, watching TV, and then my cell phone rang. So I get up. I go to get the cell phone, and it's that old guy, the sponsor. And the first thing he said with an angry voice was, "Why haven't you called me? Why haven't you called me?" And I was like, oh my gosh, and thinking that. And I said, because you told me not to call you unless I needed you. And that call didn't last long. I got off the phone pretty quick, but I was upset. I just couldn't believe it. This guy out of nowhere, at the worst possible time, a guy who told me not to call him and only call him if I needed him, called me and disturbed my peace, destroyed the peace I had, that I was having with my wife. And, it was an invasion of my privacy, an invasion of my peace, and, I was really upset about that. So I went to another meeting at a different location, also near my house, within 15 minutes drive. And I was there, and there was this other guy, and I could tell this guy was kind of a jerk. And you could tell the way he walked around. He thought he had all this, and he was regarded as having all this sobriety and, like being a leader or something, and walked around like he was, a hard ass. And you could tell he didn't try to help people. He didn't care about other people. So the meeting started, and they separated into groups, different tables with like 10 or 12 people per table. And one thing that I mentioned, that I was upset about was this, guy who called me when I was up, at the resort, wasn't drinking. And, I think I was at this meeting when I didn't even really need it. I would go to meetings because they tell you, go to a meeting every day when you first start, or go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And there would be times like when I was fine, the sun was shining, beautiful day, I had no reason, I didn't want to drink alcohol, but I didn't want to go to a meeting. But I go to the meeting just because they told you you're supposed to. And then I'd leave that meeting wanting to get drunk and being so mad, being so angry, because again, I was attacked, or, the people there were just, it was just upsetting. So anyway, so I'm at this meeting, I'm at a table with this guy who's a jerk, and I mentioned I was one of the first people to speak, and they go around the table and you say whatever's on your mind. And I said, I was upset, I was at the resort, this guy calls me, supposedly I need a sponsor, and then this guy volunteers and, says, don't call me unless you need me. And then, when I didn't need him, he calls me and angrily, at the worst time, when I'm at peace, invades my privacy, starts yelling at me, why didn't I call him after he told me not to call him? So then the next person goes around, the next person speaks, and it's this nice older lady, seemed like a nice lady, working class or upper working class, which is my background in the neighborhood where I'm in, not wealthy, nothing extravagant about the houses, but, people maintain their homes, they work, usually both work, they raise their kids, send them to private schools, and, they have a pension or whatever, and, decent people, they don't get ahead by hurting people, but they do work. So she's one of those kinds of people, and she had said she had relapsed, and that weekend, and so I felt bad for her, and I wanted to get her on the table and to be done with the last person, so maybe I could say something helpful to her, encouraging. So it went from me, then to her, then the next guy, next guy, next guy, next guy, next guy, next person. I don't know, there were women there too. So it gets about the 9th or 10th person after me. It's this guy, this, jerk, as I described him. And yeah, he's just like, the whole time he's like waiting for it to get to him because he's focusing on me. And right away he goes at me and goes to this guy's defense and starts saying to me, well, for all you know, he could have, been at a meeting, he came back and, he meant well and he was trying to help you and all this. And, and I'm just looking at this guy and I said, what I was thinking, because I was the one who answered the phone when this guy called angry, and I knew that there wasn't anything normal or he wasn't well-meaning, and he was just, he had his problems. And I didn't say this, but back then the way I thought, this is a crude thing to say, but the saying is no sinner. There's no saint without a past, and no sinner without a future. I was a sinner then, and I was thinking in my mind. I wanted to say it, but I didn't. I was thinking, yeah, well, maybe this guy who called me, maybe he had a martini in one hand and his dick in the other, and that's a mean thing to say, or it's not a holy, godly, it's an evil thing to say, but I'm not saying it, and I don't want you to think that's the way to talk. I'm saying that was on my mind, but I just said to this guy, well, maybe he did, but, are we going to just sit here and argue, about this? In other words, like, what's your point? And, he just shut up. And, I remember I saw him near the door, putting on his jacket, getting ready to leave because the meeting was over. And I walked over to him, and I didn't do this, it wasn't like any plan or plot to upset him, because I didn't even know the answer to the question I'm about to pose, or tell you that I posed to him. I said to him, are you a retired cop? And he got, real shaken, and, I think he said, like, yeah, why, or who told you? I think he said he was afraid that somebody told me his identity, or, destroyed his anonymity. And I just smirked and said, yeah, I could just tell, because he's one of these guys, who thinks, he's better than everybody. He thinks, he can act however he wants toward other people. He thinks like he knows it all. He knows everything, and you don't know anything. And I think he's used to being able to treat criminals or lawbreakers in a demeaning way, and then he that transfers over to the way he treats other people. Or maybe he thinks he's cured and you've got a drinking problem, so he can talk down to you when he obviously had a drinking problem. So obviously I upset him, but he really upset me, and my peace was gone for days. I was pissed off. I wanted to kick the shit out of that guy, but being one of the things I overcame through the Word of God was violence, fighting, lashing out at people, even if it's just verbally, because I would never throw the first punch, but if somebody threw the first punch at me, I mean, those demons in me would be unleashed on them, and I used to be proud of that, but now knowing that it was demons, I'm not proud of it, because it was dangerous to them, but those demons are dangerous to me. They might want to hurt someone else, but those fights are few and far between. The rest of the time they're working on hurting me. So my demons were able to seize on what this guy did, this guy's attack on me, and it might seem like nothing, something you could walk away from, but back then, so it might seem like nothing, but you know, back then, I had those demons, so I had that rage. I had that rage in me, and so I want to get to the point, and well, here's here I am. I've gone to AA now. Now I've had one person volunteer to be a sponsor. Thanks for nothing. Actually, thanks for ruining my vacation with my wife up at the lake. Then I've got this other guy attacking me because that's what he was laying in wait for that that group, whatever, that discussion to get to him. He didn't care about the other people. He didn't care about that lady next to me who who had the relapse. He wasn't listening to anybody to try to help anyone. It was just waiting for his turn, holding on to what I said so he could attack me, and that pissed me off, and that I took that home with me, and so I was trying not to drink, and I thought I had been at a meeting one time in LA, and because I was traveling and I was in LA, so this was early on, and I went to a meeting. And as an aside, one of the things after that meeting was over, there was a guy, he looked homeless, close enough, but he stood up when everybody was walking out after the meeting and said out loud, does anybody want to go get high? And he was serious. And I didn't see anyone take him up on it. Maybe they did when no one else was looking, but those are the kinds of people some of those people go to those meetings. And at that meeting in LA, there was an old guy there who was like at the head table or whatever, began the discussion, and he had given me a book at the end because I said I was, a newcomer, new to this. Maybe it was my first meeting. I don't remember. I was new to that meeting, and pretty new to AA at that time. I think when I was talking at that time, I almost broke down crying. I kind of did, had to stop myself, but I was upset. And this is how you can see this. He gave me this book, this 12-step prayer book, which I still have. And as you can see, I'll cover his phone number, but he actually wrote in it, you can give me a call anytime. I hope you do. And then he's got on the bottom there, sober date 1982. So this guy's got like 25 years of sobriety. Call me anytime. I hope you do. So as I was pissed off about this jerk who attacked me verbally, I swallowed my pride and took a chance. I called this guy, and he says to me, he's all upset. He says, well, I just sat down to lunch. Like as if, no sympathy, no caring at all, no attitude of, not wanting to be helpful, not nice about it, not like, can I call you right back, or would you call me back in a few minutes, or, I'd love to help you, just, how about give me an hour? No. It was basically like, you're disturbing me. And I think he just left it at, we'll just pray. And I didn't pray. I got drunk, and then I did go back to that meeting with the jerk, and in the aftermath of my having gotten drunk after getting pissed off because of this guy, and I saw the guy first. The meeting hadn't started. First person I see when I walk in is him, and he kind of was like, this guy, and he spoke this time. And he basically admitted that he relapsed. So, by attacking me, it came right back onto him. And I'm sure that, he was no match for my demons, as neither was I. So what was the point of going to that meeting? Just to get pissed off and to get drunk? So there's AA. There's your introduction to AA. So I just said screw it, and never go back to AA. And I basically, then I got divorced, and I went through a year of kind of like social isolation. I was battling demons, but I wasn't drinking alcohol. And but I did a couple times in that year. But when I got back, I had moved across the country, and then when I came back, I after I'd moved back from having lived across the country on the West Coast, I was able to call upon friends and old friends and family, and so I ended up drinking again socially. Not I would still read the Bible every night, and I would only drink like on the weekend. I wouldn't drink on the Sabbath, and but I was out again, carousing, getting drunk, and I knew it was wrong. And I was at church one time, and there was a visiting pastor, and the pastor said, because I was going to a mega church, where they've got like 6 campuses, and I went to the one near me, and there was a guy from another campus out in the suburbs, and he was a visiting pastor. I really didn't think my own local pastor was genuine. I don't think he was really saved. I think, not like I was. I think, he's a feel-good Christian, candy cane Christian. I came up with that term. I don't know why, but, just, I don't think he has the heart of Jesus, but I think, he's not saving souls. Regardless, so there was somebody there who I think maybe did have more of the heart of Jesus, and he asked, would anybody want me to pray? So I went up there, asked him, would you pray for me, please? Because even though my life wasn't a wreck now, I knew now that I was going out, having a good time, going out with my friends, going out with my cousins, getting drunk, carousing. And I asked him, would you pray for me, that I would stop doing that, and because I don't want to go to hell. And he prayed for me, and then shortly thereafter, I got a DUI. And the way I got the DUI was, I was with my cousin, and some lady out of nowhere, when I was in a drive-thru at the end of the night, said, he shouldn't be driving. Either let him drive, or I'm calling the police. And when my cousin got out to, kind of like a Chinese fire drill, I just took off. She called the cops. Cops pulled me over. Now if you watch my testimony, the other video, I talked about God's subtle signatures and how I was saved on July 1st, 2007, and how that was a fictitious birth date that I used on when websites would ask for my birth date so that nobody could steal my identity, and no one would know that but God. Well, when I got pulled over and got the DUI and everything was put down on a ticket, it was at 12:18 a.m. July 1st, 2012. So here we are, July 1st again. 18 minutes. If it was 19 minutes sooner, it would have been 11:59 June 30th, but instead it was July 1st. So again, there's God's subtle signature. And if I had just had the faith, like I knew, just gone through with it, put the device, the breath interlocking device on your ignition, so you have to breathe, blow in order to start the car. I didn't even go through it. I paid for it, got the permit, never installed it. Things just went from bad to worse. Then I lost my car. Long story, I won't get into it, but I had a 4Runner car that should last for 250,000 miles average. It was paid off. $800 a month was after 5 years of payments, it was all mine. I ended up selling it for next to nothing. And so it's like God saying, "Oh, you don't want the BAID device, the breath interlocking device? Well, you're not even going to have a car then." And I see that now in hindsight. But so anyway, make a long story short, things went from bad to worse. After they went to worse, because of that DUI, I had to go to an alcohol counselor. she introduced me to something called rational recovery, because I had talked to her about AA and how it was just ridiculous and all that I had gone through, and I would never go to that, and just how crazy it is, and she gave me a handout, and I thought this is something I should look into. So it turned out to be, pretty much a godsend. I'm sorry that it took so long for me to discover it. It took me 7 years, but I had never heard of it before, and I'm sure most people haven't. So if you haven't heard of it, check it out. It's called Rational Recovery, and it talks all about AA and all the things that I discovered about it, all the pitfalls and the lies of AA, and how it's really a trap of the devil. He calls it the fellowship of the beast, because AA calls itself a fellowship. And there's a book that I bought. It's called The Art of AVRT. You can see Founder of Rational Recovery. You can get it for $9.95 on that website, rational.org. There's no www, just rational.org. And it talks about AA. It talks about all the pitfalls of AA. And the thing about rational recovery that I like is because number one, it's talking the truth. If you go to AA, what you'll find, the first thing they tell you when you walk through the door is that you're powerless over alcohol. The second thing they tell you is that you have a disease, and then the most recent thing that I heard someone say was that when they went to a treatment center, and I heard this at an AA meeting, and the guy said that at the treatment center they told him either you enter the treatment or you have to stay home and keep drinking. And when I heard that, I was thinking that when I got home, so I just started drinking. Because I believed it, I started drinking even worse. I didn't try to exercise any restraint. I thought, well, it's not my fault. I can't help myself. I have to either, if I can't go to treatment, which I couldn't because I didn't have insurance, and I don't have the money for treatment. It's so expensive. And that's when you really, go into a downward spiral, and you really hit rock bottom when you hear things like that and believe things like that. So, and Rational Recovery talks about how treatment facilities are just the business arm of AA, and they don't work for anybody. They don't. I mean, because when I explored the AA, when they made an appointment with me at a treatment center, I mean, you're talking, they want like $20,000 a month to enter one of their houses, and the outpatients like $500 a session. It's insane. And I mean, if you have money, if you have insurance, and you think you need help to quit drinking, boy, they're gonna put all the pressure on you and on your family, and because your family's vulnerable too, and they're desperate for you to get help because of they're suffering more than the alcoholic, because the alcoholic's getting high and in his own world, but he's bringing so much pain and suffering on the family that the family is desperate for them to go into treatment or anything to get help. So that's what you get from AA. But Rational Recovery will tell you that it will tell you that it'll tell you that the only reason that you drink is for the selfish pleasure of it. And it'll tell you, that's the first thing it tells you, that the only reason you drink is to get high. It's not because you have a disease. It's not because you're powerless over alcohol. it's because you're just selfish and you like the feeling. And the second thing it tells you is that it's evil and it's immoral. And the third thing is that you're selfish and you're a coward, because the only thing that's stopping you from overcoming dependence on alcohol or whatever drug it might be is because you're going to suffer withdrawal. And obviously you're going to be uncomfortable once you stop taking that drug, and your body's going to suffer withdrawal, and it's going to be unpleasant for about 7 days usually. I know that with alcohol, you're going to be irritable, you're going to have anxiety, and you're going to have insomnia. So when somebody tells me I'm powerless and I have a disease, and if I believe that, my beliefs are going to dictate my results. And that's why AA basically sets you up for failure. Rational recovery even talks about that. Within one meeting, you've just gone from being a problem drinker to a chronic addiction, because they just told you that you're powerless and you have a disease, and if you go into treatment, they're going to try to con you out of all your money if you have money, or if you have insurance, they're going to try to get you in there, because they make tons of money, and they charge tons of money, and they don't. As I started this video out by saying, you got to be careful the people you associate with, and I use my uncle as an example, my other family members. You shouldn't be going into a meeting or a treatment center full of addicts, drug addicts, hardcore drug addicts, associating with those people, because it's not going to help you get sober. It's usually going to get you even worse. So you want to avoid those things. You want to avoid those places. But with regards to rational recovery, if you are told, instead of being told you're powerless and you have a disease, and if you don't go into treatment, you have to just stay home and keep drinking. If you're told by rational recovery that you're just selfish and you want to get high, and drinking is evil and immoral, and you're a coward because you're not willing to quit because of the withdrawal you're going to have to suffer for maybe up to a week. If you believe that, if you believe rational recovery, you're going to, again, your beliefs are going to dictate your results. So, if you tell me I'm selfish, and I believe that, and I don't want to be selfish because I don't want to hurt the people around me that I love by continuing to get drunk, and I don't want to do something that's evil or immoral because I know that God is watching, and I know that you will always reap what you sow. And then third, I don't want to be a coward. Jesus stated in Revelation that all cowards go to hell. And, Jesus wasn't a coward. Jesus, went to the cross. He could have been set free by Pilate, but he wouldn't allow it. And Pilate marveled, and, so I don't want to, I don't want to think that I'm a coward. I don't want to be a coward. I don't want people saying that I'm a coward. I don't want Jesus to see me as a coward, because I don't want to go to hell. So believing in rational recovery, you know what? Okay. You're right. I need to quit. And I'm not powerless. And I quit. And that's the difference between AA and rational recovery. Whether you want to check out rational recovery or you just want to stay away from AA, but just know that you can quit. You're gonna, let's say, I'd say alcohol. I've been told that alcohol is the most dangerous withdrawal, because people, if they're really, 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 really bad, the kind of people who wake up and have to have a drink, the withdrawal could be severe, and they might need to be hospitalized. But most people, at least with me, I never got that. I've gotten bad. Just recently, I let it get bad, let it spiral. But where I got up and I really needed a drink. But once you tell yourself no, and you prepare yourself, you'll suffer that, and you'll withstand it, and you'll give it 7 days, and every day it gets better. First day is the worst. You're probably not going to sleep at all that night, but you're functional the next day. So what's the big deal? You didn't get any sleep, big deal. And rational recovery does talk about if you need to, that's your responsibility. If you need some kind of medical attention, for the initial withdrawal, maybe go see a doctor. Maybe he could prescribe you something like, Librium. But I would stay away from Xanax. I would stay away from anything short acting. Like, Librium it's the ideal drug for withdrawal because alcohol withdrawal, because it has a very long half-life, so it stays in your system a very long time, and it has like as a result of that, it has like a natural tapering. Like, since it takes so long to get out of your system, it's sort of it's a gradual, you have this amount in your system, your bloodstream, and then it just gradually diminishes, as opposed to maybe like something like lorazepam, where you have this much in your system, and then all of a sudden you're down to here. Then you feel withdrawal now from the benzodiazepine, like lorazepam. With Librium, it's not like that. It gets out of your system really slow. So so you might go to a doctor for that, but you really don't even need it, most people. So with rational recovery, big difference. You're not set up for failure, and there's no meetings. You're not associating with other drug addicts. You go to the website and you get the literature. There's a lot of resources on the website that are free, and the book, it's $10, $9.95 for this book, and but one of the spiritual aspects I wanted to get into was with regards to, do you need Alcoholics Anonymous? No, you should stay away from it. Do you need rational recovery? I think it's a good resource, and the reason it's a good resource for me, being versed in the Word of God, and being familiar with the Bible, the New Testament, it's because rational recovery is really talking about the same concepts, but it uses different terminology. It talks about, your human nature and your animal nature, and it says, well, you're not your animal nature, and it describes it calls your AVRT means addictive voice recognition technique, and it says you have an addictive voice, and it describes your addictive voice as your beast. So it's basically saying, we all have a beast, and it's our animal nature, it's our body, it's the physical, and it's that voice in your head that tempts you with urges to get high on alcohol, cocaine, pills, powders, whatever it might be, and that's a valid concept, but the Bible talks about the same thing, and the only thing, the terminology it uses is, your spirit and your flesh. So, you could superimpose the Bible onto rational recovery, or vice versa. And when he's talking about your human nature, just think of your spirit that's described in the Bible, and when he's talking about your animal nature, just think about your flesh. Because your body and your spirit are separate, and in rational recovery it makes that point that the difference. Your beast, as he describes it, says, "I want a drink," but it's not you; it's the beast. It wants a drink, and But I just think of the beast as being your demons, your demon, and he's basically validating what I believed from the Bible in a secular context. Like, he's saying the same thing, but it's good to hear it from two different. It's like through a prism, like coming in from different angles. You're getting the same thing, but from different perspectives. And I want to talk about real quick about the Bible, the Bible, what Jesus talked about, what Paul talked about, Peter talked about. Jesus definitely made it clear that the spirit and the flesh are two different things. You have a spirit and you have a body. And in Matthew 26:41, Jesus said, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane praying, and Peter, I believe James and John couldn't stay awake, that's when Jesus said, watch and pray so that you don't fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. There's that dichotomy, described by our Creator, Jesus. All things were made through him, by him, and for him. John 1, the Gospel of John talks about that. So, I've heard the Bible described as, the handbook for humans. We were created by God, and he created a handbook, a user's guide, while we're in this body, while we're on the earth, in the physical world, teaches us how to live. Also at John 6:63, Jesus said, the spirit gives life and the flesh counts for nothing. The spirit profits you nothing. I'm sorry. The spirit gives life, the flesh profits you nothing. So in other words, your flesh let me get back to where I was. Jesus said the spirit gives life, the flesh counts for nothing. It's also translated, the flesh profits you nothing. So, there you have it. I mean, it's really, you have a spirit and you have the flesh. And okay, so rational recovery talks about your human nature and your animal nature, but the Bible talks about it as your spirit and your flesh. So, rational recovery is good if you want to read it, because it's talking about the same concepts you'll find in the Bible. But I don't think you're going to get through it. If you have demons, you need Jesus to overcome those demons. If it's not demonic, if you just have a drinking problem, it would be nice to read Rational Recovery for you to see that you really shouldn't drink at all. I mean, you should abstain. It's, if it's something that's becoming a problem, the problem's going to get worse. But again, here, Romans 7:5, this is what Paul says. For when we were in the realm of the flesh, the sinful passions aroused by the law were at work in us, so that we bore fruit for death. And Romans 8:3-13, he talks about, if you go there, you should go there, because it's obviously 3-13, there's a lot there. But he says, for what the law was powerless to do because it was weakened by the flesh, God did by sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh to be a sin offering. So he condemned sin in the flesh, in order that righteous requirement of the law might be fully met in us who do not live according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. So there again, you have to live not according to what the flesh dictates. Your body wants sinful pleasures, things that are sinful. God says they're sinful. and I know that God means it when he says it, so I don't want to do it. And you know, if you believe in God, if you believe in Christ, obey him. You know, there's a lot of people out there who, you know, don't believe and, you know, don't want to hear what I'm talking about, and they can criticize, they can throw something at the TV, at their own TV screen right now if they want to break their own TV, but I'm not talking to those people, and you're not listening because you're one of those people. You're not one of those people. You know, those people are described. This is the Bible I use. I talk about it on my website, ourinvisibleenemies.com, the Amplified Bible, amplified. You know, you can see I rely on it. I've got all my notes in the back. I lost the back of it. I got to hold on to the back of it because, you know, there's more notes there. You know, I've got so many Bibles. I've got like 9 Bibles, and all of them you have to hold on to them because all of them have different highlights, different notes. I used to travel. I'd always forget the Bible. I'd have to go to Target. I've got like 3 of the same exact Bibles, leather-bound NIVs. I've got Bibles from hotels, King James Version that I took that the Gideons leave in the drawers there, or they used to. I don't know if they still do. And I've got so many different Bibles, but this is really the one that I rely on now. And you know, for people who don't care what the, you know, think, well, you know, why can't you do something that's pleasurable, sinful, you know, sexual, drugs and alcohol, addictive? It's because God says so. But for those who don't believe that, you know, those people are described at 1 Corinthians 1:18, for the story and message of the cross is sheer absurdity and folly to those who are perishing and on their way to perdition. But to us who are being saved, it is the manifestation of the power of God. For it is written, I will baffle and render useless and destroy the learning of the learned and the philosophy of the philosophers and the cleverness of the clever and the discernment of the discerning. I will frustrate and nullify them and bring them to nothing. And that's Isaiah 29:14 that Paul is quoting. You know, and I have, he's kind of a friend. I got nothing against him, but I met him, you know, being an attorney. He's an atheist. He's a Jew, Russian Jew. So he's indoctrinated into that whole atheism. And he's the most frustrating person. I would never even, you know, he'll sit there and tell you, he thinks he knows everything. He thinks he's so smart. And he'll sit there, and I didn't know that about atheists, but not only do they not believe in God, but they think that they can prove the non-existence of God, which, when you know that God exists, to have some, as it's described in the Bible, some, you know, his foolishness, his absurdity, you know, what he thinks he's so clever and logical, and it's just ridiculous, and it just, you can't even sit there and listen to it. But that's what the Bible's describing there at 1 Corinthians 1:18, is people like that, you know, who don't, this doesn't resonate with them, you know. So again, back to rational recovery. Why rational recovery, not AA? Because rational recovery lays it out, indicts AA for what it is, for what I describe. I told you firsthand what I experienced at AA and why I would never go back. And then having told this to this alcohol counselor that I had to go to as part of the DUI, as a result of getting that DUI, she turned me on to rational recovery, gave me a handout, and I looked into it. I thought I better look into this, and sure enough, man, it was right on. It was right on. So that's why I want you to discover rational recovery, because it took me 7.5 years to discover it. And why did it take so long? You know, seeking ye shall find. But you know, you might be seeking for a long time, and I finally found it, and and now I'm showing it to you, so you don't have to keep seeking for 7 years or indefinitely for the rest of your life and never finding it. You know, because knowledge is power, and you know, AA is I mean, it's failure. It's setting you up for failure, for more bondage, you know, for associations with other addicts. It's the fellowship of the beast. They describe it as that in rational recovery. But I don't really rely on rational recovery as much as I rely on God, because it's really God who got me to this point. I mean, because I can't even dabble with alcohol. I can't even touch it, and I mean, God's given me warnings and dreams, and I even entered wrote it down and signed it, and I mean, it's God that's got me where I've wanted to be, because I wanted to quit drinking, and so I don't want to say that rational recovery should replace the gospel, because it certainly doesn't, and it hasn't for me. But again, it's good for you to read it, and I wanted to draw out the correlations between what's spoken of in the Bible and rational recovery. Rational recovery says you have a human nature, which is what you want to do, but you also have your animal nature, which is what it wants to do, which is get high. And those things are destructive. And you don't want to do that, but your body does. What he describes as it's your beast, your addictive voice, that tempts you every now and then to go back and drink after you've been sober for a while. But it's the way it's described by Paul, and I mentioned this in my testimony on July 1st, when I had this revelation. Well, no, it was July 1st when I baptized myself. If you go to the video of my testimony, I talk about how I went to church and I heard the passage from Galatians, and it was the first thing that made sense to me. And it's where, if you bear with me 1 minute, Paul says, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love." Then he goes on, he says, "So I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want." Then he says the acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity, debauchery. I'm reading here, if you'll give me 1 second. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. And he says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires." Those passions and desires being drugs, sex, like he talks about orgies, drunkenness, debauchery. So there you have it. I mean, rational recovery is talking about the same things, saying, it's your human nature versus your animal nature, but the Bible talks about the same concepts, but it uses different terminology. But with the Bible, you need Jesus Christ. So if you're battling demons, don't think you're going to get it from, Rational Recovery and Jack Trimpey, the author and the founder of Rational Recovery. You need Jesus Christ if you're battling demons, because Jesus is the only one that they obey and that they have to flee from. And but I wanted to draw on the correlation. I want you to know that Alcoholics Anonymous is bad for you. It's not going to help you. It's only going to hurt you. Those treatment centers are going to, even if you have the insurance, even if you don't even have a deductible, and you go in there, you have to go in there and you're going to be indoctrinated in these 12-step, most of these treatment centers are 12-step based. So you got the 12 steps again of AA, and number one, you're powerless, you have a disease, you know, etc., etc. And you have to go through all these you have to get a sponsor, another former drug addict. If he's even telling the truth, most of these counselors are former drug addicts. The people, your roommate is going to be a drug addict. You're going to be these groups. You're going to be surrounded by drug addicts. You know, if this is court ordered, you know, you're going to be surrounded by drug addicts. So you don't even want to. You're not even there voluntarily. Now you're surrounded by drug addicts. So again, be careful who you associate with. Now you're associating with other drug addicts. So you know, so you don't need treatment. You don't need AA. You don't want to go to those places. And you know, if you're, you know, most likely you're not going to go into DTs. You know, alcohol is the only one you really have to worry about, DTs, and you have to be really, 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 really far gone, you know, to, you know, be in danger of death. And if you are, you can always just have a drink or go into a hospital and ER, but for the most part, you'll be fine. You're just gonna, you know, you're gonna have anxiety, you're gonna have irritability, you're gonna have an insomnia, but usually within a week that's gonna be over, you know. But if you need maybe a mild sedative, something like Librium, go to your doctor and ask him for it, you know, and he'll look it up, and, you know, he'll prescribe you the right amount, you know, the right dosage, you know. But the only way that those things work is if you really want to stop and you really are trying to quit. It'll get you over that irritability, that anxiety, that is, you know, a result of chemical withdrawal, you know. But you don't want to combine the two. You don't want to be taking benzos and saying, oh, you know, I really like a drink right now because because those two don't mix. You don't want to do that. That's pointless. If you're going to keep drinking, just don't take the liver and just drink. You know, but again, with regards to the Bible, I just want to draw on that correlation to prove my point. I just want to make the convincing argument, you know, that these concepts in rational recovery, while not using the same terminology and not relying on Jesus Christ, they are biblically based, so that they do work for you. Romans 13:14, Paul says, rather clothe yourselves with the Lord Jesus Christ and do not think about how to gratify the desires of the flesh. Again, the desires of the flesh, sex and drugs, get high, pleasure, you know, seeking bodily pleasure. Let's see, I'll go through these real quick. Ephesians 2:3. You can look it up yourself. I just want to read it. Ephesians 2:3 says, among these we as well as you once lived and conducted ourselves in the passions of our flesh, our behavior governed by our corrupt and sensual nature, obeying the impulses of the flesh and the thoughts of the mind, our cravings dictated by our senses and our dark imaginings. We were then by nature children of God's wrath and heirs of his indignation like the rest of mankind. But God, so rich is he in his mercy, because of and in order to satisfy the great and wonderful and intense love with which he loved us, even when we were dead, by our own shortcomings and trespasses, he made us alive together in fellowship and in union with Christ. He gave us the very life of Christ himself, the same new life with which he quickened him, for it is by grace, his favor and mercy, which you did not deserve, that you are saved, delivered from judgment and made partakers of Christ's salvation. So what would you rather have? The fellowship of AA or the salvation of God? Because the fellowship of AA is just going to send you deeper and deeper into the throes of addiction, because you're set up for failure, being told you're powerless and you have a disease, and you know, and they talk about God, but they say God as you understand him. It could be any God. It could be, they say it could be a frickin' Mother Nature. Not Father God, not Jesus. It could be however you conceive him. It's like no different than the Masons, the Masonic. As long as you believe in some higher power. No, there's only one higher power. It's Jesus Christ. It's God the Father, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit. The rest are just bullshit. You know, you're worshiping demons. And you don't know it. There's only one God, and it's God the Father, and it's Jesus Christ. He's the Son of God. So, and he's the only one that the demons fear. They don't fear anything else, any other religion. So, AA will have you pray to your higher power, and I tried that. Don't go to God and pray and say, God, I'm leaving this on you. Take away my desire to drink alcohol. He's not going to. It doesn't work that way. You don't pray to God and say, God, take away my desire to sin. God gave you free will. It's a choice. You have to make the decision, I'm not going to do it. And that's the only way you're going to reap the rewards. That's the only way you're going to get the benefits of God's blessings. You can sin, or you can decide not to sin, but you have free will. God's not going to take away your free will. So, AA wants you to go pray to your higher power, or go to a meeting, or call your sponsor. Doesn't work. I've tried it, and it does not work. And, a lot of other people have tried it. And, check this out. Go to rational.org. They sell the book there for $9.95. You can't get it on Amazon. A couple people saw it used, but it's like $40. Well, you can get it new for $9.95. And I have no affiliation with Rational Recovery. I'm not getting a commission on a $10 book. I'm just passing on what I found to be helpful. But I don't want you to rely on Rational Recovery. I want you to realize that what he's talking about is found in the Bible, and combine the two. Superimpose the Bible onto Rational Recovery, or Rational Recovery onto the Bible. Superimpose the Bible onto Rational Recovery, just instead of human nature, animal nature. Think about your spirit and your flesh, and Colossians 2:11. I'm going to go through these real quick and then conclude here. My videos always go too long, and I'm sorry. And if you've gotten through them, all of them, I'm glad. Maybe something's working, and it's because you're really in need of help, and you're seeking it, and you're getting it, and for that I'm glad. And I know that these videos probably won't be really popular. They won't go viral. They might not have a lot of views, and but the ones that they do, I pray, are for people who were led by God to them, because they are in need of the truth of this message, the truth coming from God's word, and me just leading you to it. But Colossians 2:11 states, Paul states, in him you were also circumcised with a circumcision not performed by human hands. Your whole self, ruled by the flesh, was put off when you were circumcised by Christ. So, right now you're ruled by the flesh. It's your flesh. Your body is what causes you to sin, and it's your spirit, just like Paul talks about in Galatians, that I quoted, Galatians 5:13 through 5:16, right in that area there. It's the spirit versus the flesh. One is always going to win out over the other. So there you have it. Peter talks about it. Peter says the same thing. Peter says, this is especially true of those who follow the corrupt desire of the flesh and despise authority. Then he says at 2 Peter 2:18, for they mouth empty, boastful words, and by appealing to the lustful desires of the flesh, they entice people who are just escaping from those who live in error. There you go. That's AA right there. People who are just escaping from those who live in error are being enticed back into the world. If you go to AA, because you're trying to get free, so you think maybe AA will help, and then you just go back into bondage, into captivity. You go from being a problem drinker to a chronic alcoholic because you're told, well, it's not your fault. You have a disease. You're powerless over alcohol. Unless you do these 12 long, lengthy steps, which are going to take you months and months and months, or go into treatment, which is going to cost tens of thousands of dollars, you can't quit drinking. And believe it. And then you believe it. And so you just keep drinking and drinking more and more and more, and now you think you're hopeless, and it's not your fault, and now you have license to just keep drinking and getting drunk, and that's what you do, But if you were told from the get-go, no, you're doing it because you're selfish and you want to get high. It's evil, it's immoral, and you're just being a coward because you're not willing to undergo the withdrawal that you're suffering when you get off the drugs because you've been living the high life for so long. If you just get off the drugs, yeah, you're going to go through a little, some discomfort. A little bit of anxiety, a little agitation, some insomnia. But within 7 days, you're going to be fine. You're going to be sleeping like a baby again. It's going to be gone. Yeah, you're still going to get the temptations. You're going to get that addictive voice. And that's where rational recovery can be helpful to you. Because, he talks about a few things which were helpful to me. Knowing the strategies of the demons, which he describes as the addictive voice. He talks about the function of the addictive voice, which are the demons. These are just the tactics they use. They know how to convince you to do things that are wrong, and you're trying to do the right thing, but they're trying to get you to do the wrong thing. And I talk about this in my other video, Sex, Drugs, and Demons, where it was revealed to me, God revealed to me how these demons actually work. And if you want to learn more, you can go to that video. It's another long video. It's an hour and a half. But learn these things now that I learned the hard way. I searched for 7.5 years. So if you can sit down and listen to me for 90 minutes or 100 minutes, whatever it might be, and what I'm saying is valuable, you can spare yourself years and years, or even a lifetime of struggle and failure. So, and I'm not a professional preacher. I'm not somebody who impresses people with their eloquence. It's like what the Apostle Paul talked about. He says, I came to you in weakness and trembling, but it was the Holy Spirit that convicted you. I'm just relating to you what I learned firsthand, and through a lot of struggle and a long time it took me to learn these things. And you should just learn these things now. Why continue to struggle? But what is spoken of in rational recovery is the functions of the addictive voice, and he talks about it at page 124, and that's why, again, it's important. And I think that this book would be helpful to you. Anyone struggling with addiction. If you're struggling with addiction, forget about Alcoholics Anonymous. All you need is rational recovery. Go to rational.org, and you can read what they have on the website there. They have some free resources there, but they also have resources like this book, The Art of AVRT, and what it says here regarding the functions of the addictive voice, which again are just the tactics of your demons, is number one, conceal its existence by using the pronoun I. It'll say, I want to drink, when really it wants to drink. So you're thinking, I want to drink, but clearly you don't want to drink because you quit drinking, and you quit drinking for good reasons. You quit drinking for all of the destruction that was happening as a result of getting drunk, and all the problems that you were creating for yourself. So you don't want to drink, but you hear the voice in your mind tempting you, saying you want to drink, but it's really it that wants to drink. It wants you to drink so you return to your misery and your problems. That's the demon's only enjoyment, if you can even call it enjoyment, because they have no enjoyment. But their only enjoyment, if any, is causing misery in the flesh. And I've heard that in other contexts. I've read that, and there are other people who've had revelations and visions and from God regarding demons and the demonic, and that's what they want to do. They want to destroy you. They want to destroy the quality of your life if they can't destroy you physically. Number 2 is conceal addiction's primal pleasure motive. For example, you might always have a justification. With AA, it's your disease, or that you're powerless. You might be blaming other people. It's not your fault, it's your family's fault. You've been injured in your life. It's your husband's fault, it's your wife's fault. Your kids don't appreciate, or they're ungrateful, it's their fault. Number 3 is justify continued self-intoxication. Number 4, minimize or deny that moral dimension of self-intoxication, that it's evil, it's immoral. Number 5, minimize the bad effects of self-intoxication. Number 6 is maximize, romanticize the positive effects. Maybe remind you of times when you were first experiencing alcohol and you had good times with your friends. Number 7 is character assassination of self and others. 8 is dignify use of the substance, absolve guilt or responsibility, which is AA again, saying that you have a disease, you're powerless. Number 9 is undermine confidence to abstain. Number 10 is build social tolerance for self-intoxication. And number 11 is siege or wear you down. And that's one that I've circled. I circled it right there. Siege or wear you down. And because that's happened to me, I've there were times when I didn't want to drink, and I've talked about this in the other video, Sex, Drugs, and Demons, where the demons will attack you right before something good's about to come into your life, but you just don't know it yet, and they attack you right before, and they know it's on the horizon, and all of a sudden you're attacked. And I've had that where I was just struggling for hours, and then I finally bought a pint of alcohol, and then I'm wrestling with the urge, and I step outside, I want to pour it out in the grass, and but finally you succumb, and then you think the next day, I wish I had just gone into my room and got into a fetal position, and like you're trying to survive an aerial bombardment during war, because that's how you feel in your mind. You're getting all these attacks, and you go and you drink alcohol. And the Bible talks about it as the fiery darts of the enemy. That you need the shield of faith, to withstand the shield of faith, to withstand the fiery darts of the enemy. And that's what it is. It's the enemy coming at you, to drink alcohol, that you want it. It's so subtle that you don't know that it's the devil, but it is. It's those demons, and that's what spiritual warfare is. It's a battle of the mind. And if they can get you to do something, it's by influencing your thoughts. Your thoughts precede your actions. So if they want you to act in a certain way, they're going to try to overcome you with negative thoughts, self-defeating thoughts. But they're not going to say, here we are, it's your demons, because then you'd know. You'd be forearmed. And forewarned is forearmed. You'd know it was them, and you wouldn't fall for it. And that's how they get you to fall for it. They're cunning, subtle. And that's the way the devil is described in the Bible. So it's the enemy attacking, telling you to drink. It's that siege warfare, trying to wear you down to where you just say, just to stop the constant bombardment. Just drink the drink. Drink it just to stop the attack. And that's what they do. They siege to wear you down. It's like medieval warfare, like if you were, locked up in your castle, in your keep, and they're just bombarding you, bombarding you, bombarding you, you know, um, trying to get you to surrender, like a blockade to starve you out of there. Maybe, try to, um, burn you out of there. Try to use this Trojan horse to try to get inside and attack you. So, that's number 11. That's siege warfare. Number 12 is identify, opposition, narcs, moralists as your enemies. And that happened to me one time. I had gone to a group at the church, and they had a group for people struggling with addictions, and there were a lot of people in there. Because again, this was a mega church, a lot of members, a lot of campuses in the area, and so I was still, I guess, double-minded, you could call it. I had tried to quit drinking by going to these addiction groups, but then I don't know. So at this one time, I'd met this Irish guy. Just met him in a bar, and him and his girlfriend, and started up a conversation. And then I was going to meet him at this new Irish bar that had just gone up, and I was pumping gas on the way. I was, at a gas station on the way, pumping gas, and I got a call from, this group leader, and he starts asking me, where are you? What are you doing? And I even told him, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I even told him, that he was being a pain in the ass. And then I went and met the guy at the bar, and but he was trying to help me. Of course he was being overbearing, and but I wouldn't have it. So I identified him as being my enemy, where he was actually my friend. He was trying to help me, and I didn't see him as such at that time. And I later sent him an email to apologize, but it was after the damage was done. I had gone to the bar and I'd gotten drunk. So number 13 says, again, these are the functions of what it calls the addictive voice, but tactics of the enemy, the demons. Create a support network of other addicted people to act as a safe harbor, provide primary social needs, and legitimize addiction. And that's what AA does. Obviously you go there, you're making new friends, people who are other addicts, and they're providing your social needs, and legitimizing your addiction. It's not just you, it's a lot of other people, and it's not your fault. You're powerless and you have a disease. Number 14 is guarantee a perpetual supply of the substance and opportunities to use it. Number 15, manipulate all situations to serve itself. For example, you might be sad, so it says, let's drink and drown my sorrows. You might be happy and you think, I'll drink to celebrate. Or you might be bored and you think, I'm going to drink to liven things up. So, number 16 says, organize all thoughts, values, and policies in its own interests. And then 17 is emulation of human affairs, of human roles, of human attitudes, of mature human functioning. So that's why I recommend this book. It'll give you the weapons and teach you the strategies, give you the weapons that you need and teach you the strategies of what it describes as your addictive voice, but which is really the devil. It's your demons. He even talks about it in the book, even though he describes it in some parts as your animal nature. In the book, in other parts he calls it, like at page 101, he calls it a separate entity. So how can it be a separate entity if it's part of you, if it's your animal nature? Then he says at page 200, AVRT-based recovery is mortal combat with the beast, starting with understanding of its relentless nature, its clever, diabolical nature. So diabolical, that's demonic right there. If you some of the points that he makes, like at page 54, he says that the result is that you drink, use drugs, even as you say you don't want to, as if you are a mindless robot. And that's exactly what's described by Paul in Romans 7. If you just bear with me real quick, I just want to read it real quick, because I want you to see that why rational recovery is valuable, because it is, while using different terminology, it's using the same, whether the author knows it or not, he's using concepts that are described in the Bible, which come from God. And God created you, so he knows what you're up against, and he knows how to fix you. So at Romans 7:14-19, it says, "We know that the law is spiritual, but I am a creature of the flesh, carnal and unspiritual, having been sold into slavery under the control of sin. For I do not understand my own actions. I am baffled and bewildered. I do not practice or accomplish what I wish, but I do the very thing that I loathe, which my moral instinct condemns," which would be, for example, getting high, getting drunk. Verse 16, "Now if I do habitually what is contrary to my desire, that means that I acknowledge and agree that the law is good, morally excellent, and that I take sides with it. However, it is no longer I who do the deed, but the sin principle which is at home in me and has possession of me. For I know that nothing good dwells within me, that is, in my flesh. I can will what is right, but I cannot perform it. I have the intention and urge to do what is right, but no power to carry it out. For I fail to practice the good deeds I desire to do, but the evil deeds that I do not desire to do are what I am ever doing." So there you go. That's exactly how he describes it at page 54 in Rational Recovery. The result is that you drink or use even as you say you don't want to, as if you were a mindless robot. Last verse I'll mention at this point is Galatians 5:17, which I mentioned earlier. It says, "For the desires of the flesh are opposed to the Holy Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are opposed to the flesh. The flesh is described as the godless human nature, for these are antagonistic to each other, continually withstanding and in conflict with each other, so that you are not free, but are prevented from doing what you desire to do. But if you are led by the Holy Spirit, you are not subject to the flesh," or to the law. He describes it, and what I'm reading from is the Amplified Bible, and some of the words that I just read, you'll find in this Bible, but you won't find them in the King James or the NIV or whatever other version other than the Amplified, because it tries to expound on the translation so that you get the full meaning that was intended in the original Greek and Hebrew text. And again, it says in The Art of AVRT at page 96 that drinking is immoral conduct. And it states at, again, at like page 186, he's basically describing like an intelligence, which would be something separate and apart from yourself. So that's why, even though it's described as the animal nature, it's the devil. It's your demons who are in league with the devil. They're part of the devil's kingdom, because it says here at page 186, "Beware, the beast knows that family bonds are stronger than addictive desire, so it fears you'll build bridges back into the family and become loyal to them. The beast hates your family and will do all it can to alienate the ones you most want to forgive you and to trust you." So that's not your animal nature. That's not your body. That's not your flesh. If you're trying to reconcile and repair all the damage, reconcile with your family and repair all the damage that's been done in your life, to your family life, that's not your animal nature or yourself trying to undermine that. That's obviously, a separate entity, an intelligence that's alien to you. And, the demons have a super intelligence way beyond anything that humans have, and they have superior knowledge, and that's why you have to overcome them, with the Word of God, through faith. All the spiritual weapons that are described by Paul in the letters, which include your right standing with God, integrity, integrity being that which you do when no one else is around, when no one's looking. So again, you have to realize that you have a spirit, and you have to live according to your spirit. But you are in the flesh while you're living this life. You're never going to die ever. Your body will die, but your spirit will never die. And that's why this is very important. What you do in this life is going to carry over into eternity. So it's your flesh which is evil and which is a hindrance to you living according to the Spirit. Even people who aren't drug addicts are oftentimes gluttons, and that's why we have an obesity epidemic. Some people are sex addicts, and they can't live according to their spirit. Obviously, nobody wants to be obese or a sex addict or a drug addict. People want to live according to the Spirit. And in your case, you want to have a good life. You want to be clean and sober. And your flesh is a hindrance to that. So you want to live according to the Spirit. So it's your demons that are tempting you, using your flesh against you. They're the ones who are bombarding you with temptations, cravings, obsessions. And Jesus Christ is the only one that can overcome your demons. So stay away from AA and stay away from Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is described in Rational Recovery as the fellowship of the beast. So find Jesus and check out Rational Recovery. Check out rational.org. Then you'll have the right belief system and you'll have the right mindset, because there's the saying, the man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both usually right. So if you believe you can do something, you can do it. If you believe you can't do something, you can't do it. So if you go to AA and they tell you you can't quit drinking because you're powerless and you have a disease and you believe that, those beliefs are going to dictate your results. But if you go to Rational Recovery and they tell you you're not powerless over alcohol and you don't have a disease, you just don't want to quit because you love the feeling, regardless of any justifications you might try to offer yourself, and deny that it's just because you like to get high. The fact is, you do just like to get high. It's evil and it's immoral. And if you would stop being a coward and just suck it up and suffer withdrawal for as long as it takes until those drugs are out of your system, then you'll be fine and you'll be able to quit. But with Rational Recovery, you will then, after you've gone through withdrawal and you're no longer dependent on these drugs, you won't be able to understand the addictive voice, the demons, the tactics they use. When you get those temptations after you've quit, you'll know the strategies of the devil, and you'll be able to withstand the attacks of the devil. And so that's really what you need to know. You need to stay away from Alcoholics Anonymous for the reasons I stated. You should check out Rational Recovery for the reasons I stated. And be sure to check out the Bible and pray to Jesus. And I'm going to pray to Jesus right now. Dear Lord, I thank you for leading me to Rational Recovery. I thank you for getting me to this point now. When I prayed that you would help me to quit drinking alcohol, I've quit, and I can't go back. And I know I can't go back. The consequences are just too severe. And I pray that whoever's in need of this message will find this message. And I pray that those who find this message will go to your word, the Bible. We'll check out Rational Recovery. We'll understand once and for all that they can quit their addiction. They can become free. They can become free of their demons through the power of the Holy Spirit, through the power of Jesus Christ. And then they can be free. And if they go to Alcoholics Anonymous, they're only going to become more in bondage. And I pray that they will be free of their bondage, that the work of the devil in their life will be destroyed. because Jesus came to destroy the works of the devil, and I pray that the works of the devil will be destroyed in the lives of the people hearing this message, and they will be freed from bondage, and the devil will fail, and God will be glorified. I pray and I ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. So be it. Thank you, and God bless you.